The hall was full of noise, lights, and fear. The slave market of Grax Prime was one of the darkest corners of the galaxy. The air smelled of metal, oil, and sweat. Strange creatures from many worlds stood behind energy cages waiting for their fate. Their eyes were empty. Their hope was long gone. On a raised stage, the auctioneer shouted with his deep, rough voice. His 3 mouths moved at once, calling out prices in different alien tongues. Traders, pirates, and soldiers filled the seats below, holding bidding tablets. The sound of credits clinking and alien laughter echoed through the hall. Then the lights dimmed. A deep metallic sound rang through the air. Clang. A new cage rolled onto the platform. 2 guards struggled to push it, their armor scratched and smoking from burn marks. Something inside the cage growled, low and dangerous. The auctioneer lifted his many hands. "Ladies and lords of Grax Prime," he shouted, "feast your eyes upon our final treasure, Lot 47. The Untamed One." The crowd leaned forward. Inside the cage stood a girl, or something that looked almost like one. Her skin was pale silver, with faint glowing lines running along her arms. Her eyes burned bright blue like lightning trapped inside. Chains made of light wrapped around her wrists, humming softly. Her dark hair fell wild across her face. Her lips were curled in anger. The auctioneer grinned. "Captured on the ruins of Arathis Hofor. She killed 9 of my men before we subdued her. She is strong, fast, and wild, a creature of pure power." The girl snarled and slammed her fists against the cage. Sparks flew. The guards stepped back quickly. One of them shouted, "She almost broke it again." The audience laughed nervously. Some looked excited, others terrified. "Who will start the bidding?" The auctioneer roared. 1,000 credits for the Untamed One. No hands went up. Silence. The auctioneer blinked with all 6 of his eyes. "No bids? Very well, 900? Still silence. Someone in the back shouted, "She's cursed. Killed her last owner." Another voice added, "She'll rip your throat out before you can command her." Laughter spread again, but it was uneasy laughter. The girl inside the cage stared at them all, her breathing heavy. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just looked at them like a predator watching prey. The auctioneer's smile began to fade. He wiped sweat from his forehead. "Come now, fine people. This one is worth a fortune. Look at her power. Her DNA alone." The cage cracked. Crick! A metal bar snapped in half. The crowd gasped. The guard screamed, "Shut her down! Shut her down!" A blue field flashed, and the girl fell to her knees, her body shaking from the shock. The chains pulsed brighter, locking her in place. The auctioneer forced a smile again. "You see? Contained. Perfectly safe. Once you know how." But nobody laughed now. Nobody wanted her. Even the cruelest traders stepped back, shaking their heads. Then, from the far back of the hall, a calm voice spoke. "I'll take her." Everyone turned. It was a man, a human, standing alone. His clothes were old, dusty, travel-worn. He wore no armor, carried no weapon that anyone could see. His face was quiet, unreadable, and his dark eyes looked straight at the cage, not with fear, but with something else. Pity, maybe, or recognition. The auctioneer froze. A human? You wish to bid?" The man nodded once. "Yes. Do you know what she is?" "I do. Do you have the credits?" The man reached into his coat and threw a chip onto the stage. It flashed blue, in full payment. Gasps spread through the hall. The auctioneer blinked. "You pay in full? Without seeing her strength, her obedience?" "She doesn't need to obey me," the man said quietly. "Just breathe." The crowd burst into noise, shouts, laughter, whispers. Madness. "He'll be dead before sunrise." "A human buying that thing?" The auctioneer shrugged. "Sold." He slammed his hand on the podium. "Lot 47 belongs to—" "What was your name, stranger?" The man answered, "Elias Ward." The guards hesitated, but the auctioneer gestured angrily for them to release the cage. The energy bars faded. The wild girl stepped out slowly, her eyes glowing brighter. Everyone in the hall stepped back except Elias. The girl looked at him with pure hatred. Her voice was low, rough, but clear enough to say, "Touch me and die." Elias didn't move. "Then I won't touch you," he said calmly. He turned to the guards. "Remove the shock collar." The guards stared at him like he was insane. "Sir, that's not—" Elias's eyes hardened. "Do it." Something in his tone made them obey. The collar snapped open, falling to the ground. The moment it did, the girl's power flared. Light rippled from her skin like a storm. The crowd screamed. Blasters were drawn, but Elias didn't reach for his weapon. He simply said, "You're free now." The girl froze, confused. Her power flickered, then dimmed. No one had ever said that to her before. Not in years. Not ever. The guards waited, expecting her to attack. Instead, she turned and walked beside Elias as he left the hall. Her chains were still humming, but for the first time her steps were quiet. The crowd whispered behind them. Who is he? Is he insane? He won't last a night. Elias and the alien girl disappeared into the dark corridors of the spaceport. The auctioneer wiped his hands, muttering, "Dead men don't get refunds." Outside, the wind howled through the metal alleys. Ships roared overhead. Elias stopped beside an old cargo vessel. His ship, the Dawn Runner. The girl stood silently behind him, her glowing eyes watching. He opened the ramp. "You can come with me," he said softly. "Or you can go. Your choice." She looked at him for a long time, then stepped inside without a word. Above them, the stars of Grax Prime burned cold and distant, and somewhere far beyond something ancient stirred, because a human had just raised his hand, and never lowered it again. The metal ramp of the Dawn Runner creaked as it lifted, sealing the pair away from the noise of the spaceport. Inside, the lights were dim, the air filled with the soft hum of the ship's engines. The girl stood near the wall, her glowing eyes darting around like a wild animal ready to strike. Elias moved slowly, giving her space. He didn't speak for a while. He knew silence was safer than words. The girl's hands were still bound in light cuffs. Every few seconds they buzzed faintly with power, warning her not to try anything. She didn't move. Her chest rose and fell fast, her breath heavy with anger and confusion. Finally, Elias spoke. His voice was calm even. "You hungry?" She didn't answer. Her gaze stayed fixed on him. When he took a step closer, her body tensed. He stopped. "All right," he said quietly. "I'll leave food on the table. You decide if you want it." He turned away and started checking the ship's controls. The engines hummed louder as they left orbit. Stars stretched into long lines outside the window, a jump into hyperspace. The girl stayed still like a shadow. Minutes passed. The smell of warm food spread through the small cabin. Bread, dried meat, and water. She glanced at it but didn't move. Elias sat in the pilot's seat watching the stars blur by. "My name's Elias Ward," he said softly. "I used to be a soldier. Now I'm just traveling." Still no answer. He smiled faintly. "You don't have to tell me your name." "Not yet." Silence filled the ship again. Only the hum of the engines and the faint crackle of the cuffs could be heard. Hours later, when Elias pretended to be asleep, the girl moved. Quietly, she stepped to the table and picked up the bread. Her hands shook. She ate slowly, each bite small and careful as if she expected to be punished. Elias opened one eye and saw her. He didn't say anything. He just turned his head away and went back to resting. When she was done, she sat on the floor beside the table, her back against the wall. Her eyes stayed on him for a long time before finally closing. The next day, Elias found her standing near the engine room. She was studying the ship's power core, a glowing sphere surrounded by wires. "You touch that, and we both explode," Elias said from behind her. She turned sharply, energy sparking around her wrists. "I didn't say don't look," he added. "Just don't touch." Her glare softened slightly. "You talk too much." Her voice was rough but clear, the first words she'd spoken since the auction. Elias smiled. "That's the first thing you've said to me. I'll take it as a good sign." She frowned, clearly not sure how to respond. He nodded toward her cuffs. "Those hurt?" She looked down. "They burn when I move too fast." He stepped closer. "I can try to loosen them." Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because I don't like seeing people in chains." For a moment, neither spoke. Her expression flickered between anger and something else. Confusion, maybe. She finally nodded once. Elias knelt beside her and opened a small toolkit. He worked carefully, avoiding her skin. The cuffs hissed, then clicked open. She rubbed her wrists, staring at him. "You're not afraid of me." "I'm afraid of a lot of things," he said. "Just not you." She tilted her head. "You should be." He looked up at her. "Maybe. But I don't think you'll hurt me." Her lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but not hate either. Later, as the ship drifted through a quiet stretch of space, Elias worked on repairing a panel. The girl sat nearby, watching him with curious eyes. "You were a soldier," she said suddenly. "Which war?" He stopped moving. "The one on Arathis IV." Her eyes flashed blue. "That was my world." He froze. The silence grew heavy between them. "You burned our skies," she said in a low voice. "Humans killed my people. You destroyed everything." Elias didn't look at her. His hands trembled slightly as he tightened a bolt. "I know," he said quietly. "I was there." Her power flared for a moment, blue light crawling over her arms. "Then why did you buy me? To finish what you started?" He met her gaze, his eyes full of pain. "No, to stop what I started." She stared at him, anger shaking inside her, but his voice carried no lies. "Just guilt. You can kill me if you want," he said. "But not today. Not while you're still hungry, and not while this ship still needs both of us to fly." She blinked, her power dimming again. "You're strange, human." "Maybe," Elias said, returning to his work. "But I keep my word." She looked at him for a long time, then whispered, "My name is Kara." He paused, then repeated softly, "Kara, that's a strong name." She didn't respond, but for the first time her eyes didn't hold hate. That night, Elias sat at the cockpit again, watching the stars. Kara stood beside him, arms crossed. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Anywhere but back," he replied. She gave a small nod. "You know they'll come for me." "The traitors. The ones who sold me." "I know," Elias said. "Let them come. You'll die for me?" she asked, almost mocking. He smiled faintly. "I've died for worse reasons." She didn't understand this human, not his calm, not his guilt, not his strange kindness. But as she looked out into the endless stars, something inside her shifted. For the first time since her world burned, she felt unsure. Maybe not all humans were monsters. Elias looked at her and saw something too. Not a weapon, not a slave, but a survivor. And though neither said it aloud, both knew their quiet journey had just become something far greater and far more dangerous than either of them expected. The ship drifted through a silent corner of space where the stars seemed to whisper. The Dawnrunner moved like a lonely ghost, its old engines humming a low, steady song. Inside, the two travelers lived in a fragile peace, one born of guilt, the other of confusion. Elias sat at the navigation desk, staring at a small data chip in his hand. It carried an old military insignia, the emblem of the human defense fleet. His thumb brushed across it again and again, as if it could erase what it once meant. Across from him, Kara watched with sharp eyes. She'd been observing him for days, learning his movements, his quiet habits. He spoke little, but when he did, his words carried weight. Finally, she asked, "That mark. I've seen it before, on the ships that burned my sky." Elias didn't look up. "I know. You were one of them." He nodded slowly. "I was." Her hands tightened on the edge of the table, faint blue light running through the lines of her skin. "Then why do you still live?" He raised his eyes to meet hers. There was no anger there, only tiredness. "Because I was ordered to live," he said. "And I followed too many orders." Kara's voice grew colder. "My people screamed while yours called it victory." Elias didn't answer. Instead, he stood and walked to the viewport. The stars reflected on his face like old ghosts. "I can't change what happened," he said, "but I can stop it from happening again." She rose from her seat, her glow dimming to a soft blue. "Words are wind, human. My people died by words too." He turned toward her. "Then I'll show you through actions." Hours passed in silence. The air felt heavier now, thick with the unspoken truth between them. Kara wandered through the ship, touching walls and panels, learning its heart. She found a small metal room filled with old war crates. Inside one, she found a folded flag, the same symbol she had seen above her burning city years ago. She stared at it for a long time. Then, with a deep breath, she tore it in half. Elias found her moments later, standing over the shredded cloth. He said nothing. He didn't need to. "Does that make you angry?" she asked. "No," he said quietly. "It makes me human." Her eyes narrowed, confused by his calmness. "You carry the mark of murderers, yet you speak like a priest." He smiled sadly. "I stopped believing in heroes long ago." That night, Kara dreamed again. Fire, screams, the sound of thunder from the sky as metal ships rained death. She was small again, hiding under stone, clutching her mother's hand. The ground shook. Then light, white, and endless. She woke with a cry, her body glowing with raw energy. Sparks flew from her hands, burning through the floor. Elias rushed in, shielding his eyes. Kara! Stop! Her eyes were blank, filled with pain. They're burning us again! She shouted, lost in the past. Elias grabbed her shoulders. You're safe. It's not real. She pushed him away and he crashed into a wall. The lights flickered, alarms screamed. Energy waves rolled through the ship like thunder. Elias crawled toward her, blood on his face. Kara, look at me! Her glowing eyes turned toward him. For a second, she didn't see a soldier. She saw a broken man, bleeding and unarmed, staring at her not with fear but concern. Her breathing slowed. The blue light around her faded, leaving only silence. Elias fell back, coughing. Kara dropped to her knees, trembling. I didn't mean to, she whispered. I know, Elias said softly, wincing as he stood. You're not the only one haunted by ghosts. When the alarm stopped, the ship floated quietly again. Elias patched a cut on his arm while Kara sat across from him, ashamed. I saw your world once, Elias said. From orbit. It was beautiful. Blue rivers, white trees. The commanders said your kind were dangerous, that you'd destroy us first if we didn't strike. She looked up sharply. Lies, yes, he said. I believed them then. I don't anymore. Kara studied his face, trying to find deceit. She found none. Only regret, deep and heavy like the void outside. You could have left me in that cage, she said quietly. I know. Why didn't you? He thought for a long time before answering. Because when I saw you, I saw the last face from that day. The face of someone we never should have destroyed. Her voice softened. And you think saving me will save you? He gave a weak smile. Maybe not, but it's a start. For the first time, she didn't look at him with hatred. She looked at him with something she didn't understand. Curiosity, maybe even pity. She stood and walked to the control screen. Where are we going? Anywhere far from the ones who own people, Elias said. She pressed a few buttons and frowned. You're being tracked, Elias froze. By who? Kara pointed at the blinking red light on the radar. It's coded. Same frequency as the auction. Elias's jaw tightened. So they put a tag in the ship. They'll come for you, she said. He gave a short, bitter laugh. No, they'll come for you. Kara turned toward him. Then we run together. Elias smiled faintly. That's what I was hoping you'd say. She walked closer to him, her glowing eyes softer now. If you were my enemy once, she said, maybe fate wants us to finish what started. Maybe, Elias said. Or maybe fate wants us to rewrite it. Outside, the stars drifted like slow fire. Somewhere behind them, a fleet had begun its pursuit. And somewhere deep within Kara's veins, the old power of her people stirred, whispering that the past was not done with either of them. As the Dawn Runner vanished into the black, Elias glanced at her and said quietly, We're both survivors of the same mistake. Kara nodded. Then let's make something worth surviving for. The ship's alarm rang like a heartbeat of danger. Red lights flashed along the narrow halls of the Dawn Runner. Elias was already at the controls, eyes locked on the radar screen. 3 red dots moved fast, hunters closing in. Kara stood beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly under the warning lights. They found us, she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. Elias didn't answer right away. His hands flew over the controls, rerouting power from the sleeping quarters to the shields. The old ship groaned in protest. I know, he said finally. They tagged us before we left Grax Prime. I should have seen it. Kara leaned over the console, studying the radar. 3 ships. Medium class, fast bounty hunters, Elias muttered. Probably hired by the auctioneer. They'll want you alive. She turned to him, her glowing eyes narrowing. And you dead. He gave a faint smile. That part's normal. The ship shook violently. A laser blast scraped across the hull, sending sparks raining from the ceiling. Kara's fingers curled around the metal edge of the control board. Let me go out there, she said. I can destroy them. Elias looked at her sharply. And then what? Burn half the sector with your power. You'll kill yourself before you kill them. I don't need you to protect me. I'm not protecting you, he said firmly. I'm keeping us both alive. For a moment they locked eyes, her fury against his stubborn calm. The ship shuddered again. The hull temperature spiked. Elias gritted his teeth. Fine, he said. You want to help? Take the rear turret. Kara blinked. Turret? He pointed down the corridor. Second hatch on the left. Don't aim for the engines. They'll explode near us. Target the sensors. She hesitated, then ran. Her footsteps were fast, light, almost soundless. Elias pulled the ship into a roll, dodging another volley. The stars outside twisted and blurred. The old engines screamed like wounded beasts. Kara reached the turret, sat down and wrapped her glowing hands around the controls. The metal under her palms warmed instantly. How does this thing fire? She muttered. Press the red. Elias started, but she already did. A beam of bright blue plasma shot out, cutting one hunter ship clean in half. The explosion painted the stars gold and white. Good shot, Elias said, his voice halfway between surprise and laughter. Kara smirked. You humans build fragile machines. Yeah, well, he said, twisting the ship into another spin. We also build stubborn pilots. The two remaining hunters spread apart, trying to flank them. Kara tracked them through the rotating gun turret. Her reflexes were faster than any machine. One fired a missile. She sliced it in midair. The explosion shook them both. Elias yelled over the comm. They're driving us toward the debris field. Kara replied, then go faster. I'm going as fast as she'll... A sharp boom cut him off. The ship jerked, alarms howling. The rear stabilizer was gone. Elias! Kara shouted. I know, hold on. The ship spiraled through a field of broken satellites and floating metal. Kara's power began to flicker through her skin again. The strange light that came whenever her heart raced. She didn't understand it fully, but it felt like a storm waking inside her. She gripped the turret tighter. If I push my energy into the weapon, it might hit harder. Elias's voice came through, panicked. Kara, no. You'll burn out the... But it was too late. Blue light poured from her hands into the turret. The weapon glowed brighter than any star. When she fired, the entire debris field lit up like daylight. One hunter ship vanished in a single flash. The recoil slammed through the Dawnrunner, throwing Kara back. Sparks exploded around her. She fell hard against the wall, breathing fast. Kara, report! Elias called. I'm alive, she groaned, but your ship might not be. Elias fought the controls, trying to steady their spin. You just overloaded half the systems, did it work? He looked at the radar. Only one red dot remained. He grinned. Yeah, it worked. The last hunter ship didn't chase. It hovered at a distance, scanning them, then turned away and vanished into hyperspace. Elias slumped in his seat, wiping sweat from his brow. They'll bring more next time, he said. Kara limped into the cockpit, smoke curling from her sleeves. Then we better be gone before that. Elias checked the navigation screen. We can't jump again yet. The reactor's overheating. Then we hide, she said simply. He raised an eyebrow. Hide where? Kara pointed to a thick blue mist spreading across the radar. There, the nebula of Theros. Too much radiation for scanners to track us. Elias frowned. Too dangerous. You said you wanted to stay alive, she replied. This is how. He hesitated, then nodded. Fine, Theros it is. The ship turned toward the swirling blue fog ahead. The stars disappeared behind clouds of electric dust. As they entered, everything went quiet. The comms, the radar, even the hum of the ship seemed softer. Outside, the nebula glowed like a sea of ghosts. Kara leaned against the viewport, watching the light play across her silver skin. I remember places like this, she whispered. Before the war, my people used to say the nebula was where lost souls rest. Elias looked at her. Maybe they were right. She glanced at him. And you, human? Where do your lost souls go? He gave a tired smile. They never rest. They just keep flying. Later, when the engines cooled, Elias sat beside Kara near the window. For once, she wasn't tense. The blue glow outside reflected in her eyes, soft and calm. You could have run back there, she said quietly. Left me and saved yourself. Elias shrugged. I told you before. I've already done too much running. She studied him for a long time. You're a strange man, Elias Ward, he chuckled. That's what everyone says before they try to shoot me. She smiled faintly, the first real smile he'd seen. But the moment didn't last. A small red light began blinking again on the console. A faint beeping sound echoed through the silence. Kara's smile faded. What is that? Elias's face went pale. That's not a tracker. That's a signal. A signal? Yeah, he said slowly. Something in that blast you fired sent out a pulse. To who? She asked. He looked out into the glowing blue fog and whispered, That's what I'm afraid to find out. The blue mist of the Theros Nebula wrapped around the Dawn Runner like a living ocean. Lightning drifted through it in slow, silent flashes. Inside the ship, the only sound was the faint hum of the engines and the soft, steady beep coming from the console. Elias leaned forward, his brow furrowed. The red light kept pulsing. Beep, beep, beep. Kara stood behind him, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim cabin. "It hasn't stopped since we entered the nebula," she said. "It's calling something." Elias nodded. "I know, the question is what?" He brought up the signal trace. It wasn't a human frequency. The tone patterns were too fluid, too melodic. It almost sounded like singing. Kara's eyes widened. "That's not human tech," she whispered. "That's Illyrian code." Elias turned toward her. "Your people?" She nodded slowly, listening to the faint rhythm of the transmission. "It's an old signal. A calling tone used by my ancestors to find each other in the dark. It shouldn't exist anymore," Elias frowned. "You think some of them survived?" "I don't know," she said softly. "But if this is real, then something or someone was answering me." The ship floated deeper into the glowing mist. The further they went, the stranger it became. The stars vanished completely, and the nebula seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Kara pressed her hand to the window, feeling something beneath her skin, a warmth that wasn't the ship's heat. Elias glanced at her. "You okay?" "It's like the air is alive," she said. "It feels familiar." Elias adjusted the scanners, trying to pierce the fog. "I don't like this," he muttered. "If your people can find us, so can the ones hunting us." Kara turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter. "You don't have to follow me, Elias. You've already done enough." He gave her a tired smile. "I didn't come this far to turn back now." She looked away, trying to hide the faint smile that touched her lips. Hours passed. Then suddenly the beeping stopped. The cabin went silent. Elias tapped the controls. The signal's gone. Before Kara could respond, a low hum vibrated through the ship, a sound deep enough to shake the floor. Outside, the mist began to swirl, forming a huge circle of light. Elias's eyes widened. "That's not a storm." The light twisted, folding in on itself. A massive structure emerged, a ring of stone and metal floating in the nebula, covered in glowing runes. It looked ancient, older than any known civilization. Kara stepped closer to the window, her voice trembling. "That's an Illyrian gate. Our kind used them before the wars, to travel between stars." Elias stared in awe. "You're saying your people built jump gates like this centuries ago?" Kara nodded. "They said the gates were powered by living energy, by us." Before Elias could reply, the gate pulsed again. A deep tone filled the ship. The console flickered, and then a voice, soft and echoing, came through the speakers. "Child of Flame, you are not forgotten." Kara froze. Her mouth parted, but no words came out. "That voice," Elias whispered. "Who is it?" Kara's eyes filled with tears. "It's speaking in the old tongue. That's the language of my people." The voice continued, smooth and haunting. "Follow the light. Return home. The heart of Elira still beats." Then the transmission cut off. Silence. Elias turned to Kara. "Home? I thought your world was gone." "It was," she said softly. "But maybe something survived, a fragment, a colony, a hidden refuge." He nodded. "Then we follow the light." The gate opened with a roar of energy. A tunnel of glowing blue stretched before them, shimmering like water. Elias took the controls. "Brace yourself," he said. The ship surged forward. The tunnel swallowed them whole. Light and sound vanished, replaced by a deep stillness. Kara closed her eyes. She could feel it now. The pulse of her ancestors, the warmth of something familiar and ancient. For a brief moment, she felt peace. Then the light faded. The Dawn Runner dropped out of the tunnel into a quiet orbit above a world that should not exist. It was smaller than Earth, but alive. Green forests, blue oceans, and white mountains glowing beneath a soft sun. Kara gasped. "It's real." Elias stared in disbelief. "You found it, your people's world." "No," she said softly. "This isn't the world I lost. This is one that hid." They descended slowly through the clouds. Below them, strange crystal towers rose from the forests, glowing with the same light that came from Kyra's skin. The scanners picked up faint life signs, thousands of them. Kara's eyes filled with tears. They survived. The ship landed on a platform surrounded by luminous trees. As the ramp opened, a group of tall, silver-skinned beings stepped forward. Their eyes glowed softly, their movements graceful and calm. One of them, an elder with markings across his face, looked at Kara and spoke in the old tongue. "Daughter of the lost flame, you have returned." Kara took a trembling step forward. "You know me?" The elder nodded. "You carry the last ember of our kind. The humans tried to end us, but the flame hid within you. You are the link to our rebirth." Elias watched quietly, unsure if he should bow or run. Kara turned to him, her voice shaking. "They think I'm some kind of savior," Elias frowned. "And what do you think?" She looked down at her glowing hands. "I think I'm tired of being a weapon." The elder approached Elias, studying him with unreadable eyes. "You are human," he said. "One of those who brought our world to ruin." Elias met his gaze without flinching. "Yes, and I'm the one who helped her escape." The elder stared at him for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "Then you are both part of the same destiny." Kara's voice was quiet but firm. "If I am the key to something, then I will choose what it unlocks. No more masters. No more chains." The elder's expression softened. "Then the flame is truly awake." Elias looked around the glowing forest, uneasy. "Kara, we should leave soon. The hunters won't give up that easily." She turned her gaze toward the sky. "I know, but if this place is real, if my people are alive, then I won't run anymore." Above them, thunder rolled in the atmosphere, the sound of engines approaching. Elias's face hardened. "Looks like running won't be an option anyway." Kara's eyes glowed bright blue. "Then we fight." And far above the new world, the shadows of human ships broke through the clouds, coming for her once again. The sky above the hidden Illyrian world darkened with fire. Dozens of human warships broke through the clouds, their hulls glowing red with heat as they descended through the atmosphere. The ground shook with thunder. In the glowing forest below, the Illyrians lifted their faces to the heavens in silence. They had seen this before, long ago, when humanity first burned their home. Elias stood on the edge of a crystal ridge, the wind whipping his coat. Beside him, Kara's silver skin shimmered like a blade of light. Her eyes blazed with power she barely understood. "They found us faster than I thought," Elias muttered. He held a small scanner. It flickered red. 50 ships. Maybe more. Kara's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "They won't stop. Not until they take me." Elias glanced at her. "Then they'll have to go through me first." She turned to him sharply. "You can't fight them all, Elias. They're your own kind." "Not anymore," he said. "Not since the day I raised my hand for you." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Down below, the Illyrian elders gathered around a massive crystal spire. The ground pulsed with light. They were preparing something ancient, a defense that hadn't been used in centuries. Kara knelt beside the elder who had greeted her. "You can't fight them with this world's energy. It'll destroy everything." The elder's voice was calm. "If we do nothing, we die. If we fight, we live through you." Kara shook her head. "I won't let another world burn because of me." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then what's the plan?" She looked toward the sky where streaks of fire were falling closer. "We don't destroy them. We stop them." He raised an eyebrow. "You mean talk to them?" "No," she said quietly. "Show them." The first missiles struck. Explosions rippled across the horizon. Trees of light shattered into fragments. The ground split open, glowing veins of energy spilling out like blood. Elias ran to the ship and activated the old Illyrian cannon they'd repaired earlier. "Get behind cover!" he shouted. Kara didn't move. She walked forward, her hair whipping in the hot wind. Energy gathered around her like a storm. Elias cursed. "Kara, don't!" Her voice echoed across the battlefield, strong and clear. "Enough!" The blast waves froze mid-air, flames hanging still, ash suspended like dust caught in time. Her body glowed brighter than the sun. The humans above hesitated. Their sensors went blind. Inside the human flagship, Admiral Varen stared at the monitors. "What is that?" His officer stammered. "Unknown energy surge, sir. It's alive!" Varen's eyes narrowed. "Then kill it," he gave the order. 1,000 cannons fired at once. The sky became a river of fire. Every shot curved toward Kara and vanished. The blasts disintegrated before touching her, turning into light that flowed into her body. Elias shielded his eyes. "Kara, you'll overload." But she didn't hear him. Her voice rose again, trembling with emotion. You took everything from us. You turned stars into graves, no more. The light erupted outward, swallowing the sky. The fleet above was thrown into chaos, engines dead, weapons useless. Ships collided, scattering like leaves in a storm. Kara fell to her knees. The power inside her screamed, wild and uncontrollable. Elias rushed forward, catching her before she collapsed. Easy, he said softly. You did it. Tears streamed down her face. I can't hold it. It's too much. Elias looked up at the sky, hundreds of ships still burning. He knew she couldn't survive another surge like that. He also knew the Illyrians had no defense left if she fell. He made a choice. Elias carried Kara to the Dawn Runner. She was half-conscious, glowing faintly. What are you doing? She whispered. He strapped her into the co-pilot seat. Finishing what I started. No. Her voice cracked. You'll die. He smiled sadly. Then at least I'll die doing something right. He pushed the engines to full. The ship shot upward, straight toward the human flagship. Kara's eyes fluttered open. Elias, stop! He glanced at her, his hand steady on the controls. You said you wanted to stop being a weapon. Let me be one for you. She reached out weakly, touching his arm. Don't! He looked at her, truly looked, one last time. You freed me, Kara, from the worst part of myself. Then he turned off the communication link, cutting her protest short. The Dawn Runner burst through the clouds like a comet. Human ships fired, but none could hit. Elias locked his course on the flagship's core. The sensors screamed warnings, but he ignored them all. Below, Kara awoke on the ground, the Aelarians around her watching the sky. She screamed his name, her voice echoing across the valleys. Elias smiled faintly. Guess I was right, he whispered. Humans are stubborn. He pressed the final command. The ship's reactor went critical. The explosion was silent, a burst of white light that filled the heavens. Every ship in the fleet was swept away by the shockwave. The blast rippled across the atmosphere, painting the sky gold and blue. For a long moment, there was nothing but light. Then it faded. When the silence returned, Kara stood among the ruins, her body shaking. She looked to the sky. Only fragments of ships remained, falling like ash. Tears rolled down her face, glowing faintly in the light of the crystal trees. You kept your word, she whispered. The elder approached, laying a hand on her shoulder. His sacrifice woke the stars. The flame burned stronger now. Through you, through him. Kara looked toward the horizon. He's not gone, she said. Not completely. Humans burn bright, and some flames never go out. Above, the nebula shimmered again, forming a faint outline. A ship made of light, drifting among the stars, the Dawn Runner. And somewhere within that glow, a voice echoed, soft, calm, and human. You're free now. Kara smiled through her tears. So are you. The world was quiet again. The smoke from the battle had long faded, leaving behind skies washed clean by soft blue light. The Illyrian forest shimmered once more, tall crystal trees glowing gently like they were whispering their thanks to the wind. Kara stood alone on a high ridge, her silver skin catching the sunlight. The breeze played with her dark hair as she watched the horizon where the human fleet had once burned. Now there was only peace, and silence that felt both beautiful and unbearable. It had been weeks since the explosion. Weeks since Elias Ward vanished into the stars. Every night when the sky turned gold, she looked upward, waiting for the faint glimmer of his ship, the Dawn Runner. Sometimes she thought she saw it, a ghost of light moving quietly through the clouds. Some of the Illyrians said it was just a reflection, but Kara knew better. The Illyrians had begun to rebuild. The survivors of her kind were no longer hiding in the nebula. They were growing crops again, singing their ancient songs, teaching the young ones to use the old powers without fear. Kara walked among them, yet she never felt like one of them. The elders called her Child of Flame, the living key to their future. But she didn't want worship, she wanted freedom, the kind Elias had given her. One morning she found herself near the lake that mirrored the sky perfectly. The water was still untouched. She knelt by it, tracing ripples with her fingers. A voice behind her spoke softly. You miss him. It was the elder who had once guided her through the gate. The same calm eyes that had seen too many wars. Kara didn't look up. I don't miss him, she said quietly. I just keep hearing him. The elder smiled gently. Then perhaps he has not gone. She looked at her reflection. Her eyes glowed faint blue, softer than before but warmer. He gave his life for a world that wasn't his. Humans don't usually do that. Perhaps he became more than human, the elder said. Perhaps you both did. Kara glanced at the sky. He said humans never rest. They just keep flying. The elder nodded. Then maybe his journey continues beyond what you can see. That night the stars shone brighter than ever. The nebula above pulsed with slow waves of color like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Kara climbed to the highest ridge again, holding a small object in her hands, a broken piece of the Dawnrunner's hull. It was scorched and jagged, but when she held it close it hummed faintly, alive somehow. She whispered, "Elias, if you can hear me, I kept my promise." Your fire lit a new dawn. A soft wind brushed her face. For a moment it almost felt like a hand. Then, far beyond the clouds, a streak of light crossed the sky. Silent, golden, graceful. It wasn't a shooting star. It moved with purpose, her heart skipped. "Elias?" she whispered. Stories began to spread. Travelers from distant colonies whispered about strange lights in the outer systems. A small ship glowing with blue fire, appearing whenever ships were lost. Some said it was a ghost. Others swore it was a man and a woman guiding travelers away from danger. They called it the ghost of the Dawnrunner. Captains told their crews that when they saw that golden light, it meant mercy was near. The story crossed borders, species, and time. Even human fleets began to whisper it, about the soldier who betrayed his kind to save a monster, and how the monster became their hope. Kara never tried to stop the legend. She only smiled when she heard it. Legends, she thought, were how truth hides inside hearts that still need hope. Years passed. The Illyrians flourished again, cities of crystal rising higher than ever before. Their ships no longer carried weapons but seeds and songs. Kara led them not as a queen but as a bridge between what was destroyed and what could be rebuilt. Sometimes, when she walked through the rebuilt halls, she heard laughter, human laughter, echoing faintly in the wind. One evening, as she prepared to board her new ship, a vessel she named Elias, she paused at the ramp and looked back. The young Illyrians waited behind her, ready for the first journey beyond their hidden world. A young boy asked her, "Lady Kara, is it true what they say? That a human saved you?" She smiled softly. "He didn't save me," she said. "He reminded me what being alive means." The boy tilted his head. "And what does it mean?" Kara looked toward the stars, her eyes glowing like tiny suns. "It means raising your hand for something right, and never lowering it again." The ship rose gently into the night. From orbit, the world looked small and peaceful. Kara stood at the front window, her reflection blending with the stars. She whispered, "You see, Elias?" "I'm still flying." And then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it, a faint shimmer of light beside her ship, the outline of an old vessel drifting silently beside her, glowing faint gold. The Dawnrunner. Her breath caught. "You came back." No sound came from the ship, no signal or message. But through the silence, she felt warmth, like someone smiling without words. She raised her hand slowly toward the window. The golden light flickered in response. For a moment, time stopped. Two ships, one of flesh, one of memory, flew side by side through the endless dark. Then the light faded into the stars. Years later, the story became myth. The name Elias Ward was spoken in quiet awe across systems, and the wild alien girl became a symbol of peace. Statues of a man and a woman standing side by side beneath twin suns were built on 100 worlds, and every year when the blue nebula glowed brightest, ships stopped in silence to honor the ones who had changed the stars forever. No one truly knew if they still existed, the human and the alien girl. But travelers swore that when they were lost, they heard a calm voice through the static whispering, "Keep flying. You're not alone." And somewhere, in the vast dark beyond known space, two figures, made of light and memory, drifted together across eternity, side by side, the last words whispered through the galaxy. He raised his hand once, and never lowered it again.